I think sustainability in food is extremely important because ultimately food, if you kind of step back and really step back and think of our blue planet, 70% of our blue planet, give or take, is water, 30% is land. And of that 30%, about half of that is used for food production in various ways. So when we think of farming and farmers, they are literally stewards of most of the Earth's surface. So when it comes to food, if we don't get that part right, literally we're talking about half of the Earth's surface that is not being sustainably treated in a way that can continue on for generations. So the status quo is not necessarily this immovable object. We can create a better food world.
Using sustainable materials is something close to my heart because it results in less impact on the environment. It's also something that BMW has been focusing on, and many elements of their new vehicles take this into account. The harvesting of sustainable materials leads to far less waste since they are produced from raw sources that are renewable and created in a way that does not negatively impact the environment. Using innovative practices, Ran Goel is disrupting the grocery business. The Toronto native was working at a Wall Street law firm when he first started thinking about how fragile the systems that we rely on are and how different our food supply can be. He took a long and hard look at the farm-to-fork food chain and soon became infatuated with the idea of urban farming, creating more sustainable solutions to growing, and getting people to think about where their food comes from and how to enjoy it more. He quit his high-paying job, moved back to Toronto, and created Fresh City Farms. Ran's working at Downsview Park to create food that's grown, sold, and consumed all in the city. What's more, he's helping partner with other up-and-coming farmers to redefine what our food chain can look like and create a real community. It's contributing to food security, helping to reduce emissions by making food systems more local, and developing a more urban, human-scaled, organic food system.
We at Fresh City have been farming at Downsview Park now for going on 12 growing seasons. I think the most exciting thing about farming in the city, at least for me, is the ability to connect people with food in a very kind of authentic way and a kind of a fun way. Because a lot of times when we think about food, it is this thing that we feel guilty about not eating better and not eating healthier. And the beautiful thing about, I think, farming and getting closer to farming is you realize, food can be really joyful and really fun, as opposed to being this long list of do's and don'ts, so to speak. I try to be humble, but I will say I do think Fresh City is second to none in terms of sustainably sourcing food and making it easier for customers to access that food. I think to eat more sustainably than what Fresh City offers, I think you're really either going to the farmer's market or growing food yourself. We really are trying to build an alternative food system, provide a glimpse into how much better the way we consume food can be. One of the things I think people don't realize is they think urban farming is a bit of a oxymoron, if you will, as in, farming is something that happens outside the city, and here we are in the city, and why are we doing this? Why are we farming right here? It's really important for us to get a sense of where our food is coming from, to give us a sense of, hey, this is what farming is like. This is what impact it has on the land, on the soil, on water, on the air, and this is what it takes to farm. So that's one of the main reasons I started Fresh City as a company, to really give people a sense of where their food's coming from. at the heart of our sourcing philosophy is one that local matters. So we're not dogmatic about it in the sense of, we obviously buy bananas that are from Mexico or Ecuador, they're fair trade, but they're from other places. But we do believe the pendulum has swung too far towards imports, and that's been to the detriment of the consumer in the sense that a lot of those products aren't as nutritious because of how far they've traveled. One of the things you lose by having very long supply chain is, of course, freshness, but you also lose the ability to carry things like heirloom tomatoes, for example, which can't make the journey from, say, Mexico all the way over here in the same way that a locally grown heirloom tomato can. And there's a really big sustainability impact. The longer those supply chains, of course, the more carbon intensive it is, so the more climate change impact it has. The reason I ultimately decided to join this fight, if you will, join this fight for good food and to create a better food world is because I fundamentally believed that a better way to make food and distribute food is possible. And I wanted to make that part of my life. I was born in Israel. In terms of growing up in Israel, one of the things that really stood out to me, the produce generally tastes better than it does here. So I always had these kind of stories growing up about how amazing food was when it came more direct from the source. I think it just gives me this kind of pool of hope to draw from, and to realize that often, change is not linear. It's not like it's inevitable. We have to work at it, but it is possible.
Like the food that makes an urban farming project so special, the materials in the new BMW iX xDrive 50 are sourced with sustainability in mind. Inside and out, this electric vehicle is built using natural fibers like wool in the interior and leathers that are naturally tanned. Processing these recycled materials into new products results in using 80% less CO2 than conventional production by saving on emissions at the production level. More and more sustainable materials are also being sourced in the manufacturing and design process. These innovative changes are critical in making every single part of BMW's vehicles improve in both sustainability and ultimately quality. Nobody likes to change, but we need to shake up the way we do things as we face the future. Look at the story of Fresh City Farms, their fresh produce and food, and how BMW creates best-in-class electric vehicles with recycled materials. The best things in the world can be done better and always improved on. We don't have to settle with what we knew in the past. We can all feel good about the change if we make our lives easier, healthier, and safer. It's a new way of thinking about the world and the changes we can make to lead more sustainable lives.
Oh wow, that improved my Monday morning significantly.